Have you found yourself navigating a dark night of the soul? Are you craving a deeper connection with the divine feminine? Are you ready to integrate the balanced union of the masculine and feminine within? Then let's get started on the journey towards wholeness to reclaim your sovereign soul. My name is Cynthia Clark. Over the past several decades, I have undergone many dark nights of the soul. My healing journey has been a reclamation of my sovereign divinity. Whether you're just starting out on your self-healing journey or have been exploring techniques for many years, Discover Divinity offers an opportunity to uncover the new possibilities for discovering and reclaiming the innate wisdom within. It is time to discover the new possibilities. It is time to discover you. What if the key to unlocking your healing lies not just in therapy or external change, but in reconnecting with the vulnerable child within you, the part that still carries your earliest wounds? In this deeply personal episode, Healing the Inner Child, Why It Matters, and How to Begin Your Journey, I share my journey through childhood loss, trauma, and chronic illness, revealing how inner child healing became the catalyst for reclaiming my sovereign soul. Together, we'll explore groundbreaking science on how early childhood trauma imprints on the brain and body, discuss the importance of early intervention, and offer hope for healing at any age. I'll share practical tools that you can use at home to begin this gentle but powerful work and invite you to explore modalities that I use in my practice. If you have ever felt disconnected, stuck, or overwhelmed by the shadows of your past, this conversation is an invitation to rise above the dark night of the soul and reclaim the innate wisdom and sovereignty that is inside of you. Let's get started. Welcome to the Discover Divinity podcast, Reclaim Your Sovereign Soul. I am Cynthia Clark, the founder of Discover Divinity and discoveringdivinity.com. Today, I am guiding you on this sacred journey through trauma, transformation, and spiritual awakening. This podcast is a space for those of you that have walked through the dark night of the soul or are currently walking through the dark night of the soul and are ready to rise, reclaim your power, and integrate the divine union of the feminine and masculine dance and create true balance. Today's episode is especially close to my heart because we are diving into one of my passions, and that is inner child healing, a practice that has not only transformed my life, but become a foundation for the modalities that I now use to help others heal and reclaim their sovereignty. So what is the inner child? It's the part of us that holds our earliest experiences, our joys, curiosities, but also the pain, the fears, and the unmet needs. Often, trauma and wounds from childhood become trapped in this part of us, shaping how we move through the world as adults without even realizing it. Psychotherapist John Bradshaw once said, "The inner child is the part of our personality that still reacts from childhood patterns of pain, fear, and confusion." So healing the inner child is about meeting those patterns with compassion, with presence and care so that we can heal what was never healed before. I like to look at inner child work as peeling an onion. Sometimes it takes layer after layer to reveal the deeper truths and the wounds that will also then bring us back to that core center of greater light and freedom. It's about reconnecting with the innocent, vulnerable parts of ourselves and giving them love and safety that they've never received. So in today's episode, I will be sharing a clip of my own story of loss and chronic illness and how inner child healing became a powerful tool for transformation. We'll explore the science of childhood trauma and brain development, highlight some of my favorite experts in the field, and also offer some practical heart-centered tools that you can use to start healing today. Most importantly, in today's conversation, I hope and I intend that this power within you, reclaiming your sovereign soul, is a reminder that you can rise from that darkness into wholeness. So let me begin by just sharing a little corner I've shared in previous podcast episodes, so I'll keep it really brief. But one of my first dark nights of the soul was this experience with the loss of my father at the age of 20 months old. Now, this experience was a huge seismic event. It rocked the very foundation of my world to lose my father from a sudden heart attack. And when we learn about children, we know that children need safety. They need presence and consistent love to thrive. And when that was suddenly taken away, it created a deep wound for me. And even though I didn't have the words to express that, there was a grief that was compounded with the feelings of abandonment, confusion, and fear. And I didn't understand fully for so many years how this loss would shape not only my emotional world, but my physical health. And because of the dynamics of the time in which my father died, this was in the 1970s, when trauma work, healing work was not really much of a buzzword. And with my family, they thought because of my age, I would be unscathed because I didn't have a cognitive memory of my father and would be able to move through that. But without those abilities to vocalize or have tools to transmute these wounds and these deep layers of grief, as I moved from childhood into adulthood, I would experience the symptoms and implications of what would then become diagnosed in my adulthood as 5 autoimmune disorders. And for years, I struggled with symptoms. They would baffle doctors, whether it was chronic pain, fatigue, inflammation, panic attacks, and many times in my life where I got to a point that I didn't know if I was going to live or die. And it was in that space of coming to a place that I was so ill that I came into this fierce determination that I needed to do everything that I possibly could to maintain my right to live. I knew I had so much more to do on the planet, and I knew I wasn't meant to be sick the rest of my life. And so it was in that determination, it was in my connection to my higher source that I was being led to the different parts and pieces that would bring me the answers to come into a space of that reclamation of my sovereign soul. Now, this was not an easy journey. This has been something that has taken decades of research, decades of applied action, of me having to put in the work to find my unique blueprint. And it was in some of those darkest moments that I was revealed these other corners, these other parts to start to put those pieces back together. And one of those pieces was inner child healing. It was stepping into the space of coming to the forefront for this young, beautiful 20-month-old baby that so desperately yearned for her father her entire life, and to finally show up and use the modalities, use the tools to begin to bring her a space of safety. And I became that safe haven for her. And science shows us that there is a strong connection between unresolved trauma and immune system dysregulation. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, the author of The Body Keeps the Score, explains this so eloquently. He says, trauma is not just an event that took place in the past. It is also the imprint left by that experience on mind, brain, and body. And so for me, this imprint manifested in autoimmune illness. My body was literally holding on to the trauma that my mind and heart could not fully process. And so it wasn't until I began this inner child work, this grief work, that I started to unravel those layers, just like an onion. I learned to gently listen to the scared, grieving child inside of me and offer love and safety and presence that I needed, but I never received back then. And this work was challenging, but it was so profound. And it revealed memories, emotions, and beliefs that had been buried for decades. But as I nurtured that inner child, I noticed shifts that not just emotionally, but physically would begin to show that my symptoms were beginning to ease. I gained a deeper sense of wholeness, and my body began to heal. And the journey became the foundation for many of the trainings, many of the modalities that I would practice to help release trauma from the nervous system gently and effectively. As I began to see my body heal, I stepped into this innate passion to begin to help others do the same. And I share this with you if you are listening and carrying wounds, whether from loss, neglect, abuse, abandonment, illness, that there is hope. Healing begins with a connection and compassion toward your inner child and your truest self. So I would love to get into the corner of science. I love the aspect of science and the way that it supports us with trauma. It gives us both validation, but it's also a roadmap for healing. Now, one of the best things that I found when I was going through this was an adverse childhood experiences study. It's called the ACE study, led by Dr. Vincent Felitti and Dr. Robert Anda. They revealed that children who experience trauma such as abuse, neglect, abandonment, household dysfunction are at significantly higher risk for chronic health problems, mental illness, addiction, and even early death. So the more ACEs a person has, the greater their risk. And so maybe the question that we ask is, why does this happen? But we explain that through understanding the brain, the structure and the function. We have what's called an amygdala, and that's our brain's alarm system. And when it's exposed to trauma, it becomes hypervigilant. It is always on the alert for danger. And during that time, the prefrontal cortex that's responsible for logic or decision making and emotional regulation can become underdeveloped or less active. Dr. Bruce Perry, who is a neuroscientist, explains that the developing brain is a use-dependent organ. Early childhood experiences shape the architecture of the brain. So when a child is exposed to chronic stress or trauma, their brain wiring adapts to survive. But these adaptations often come at the cost of emotional regulation and resilience. Trauma also impacts the hippocampus. This is the brain's memory center, which can lead to fragmented or repressed memories. And because trauma affects the autonomic nervous system, the system that controls fight, flight, or freeze responses, it can leave people in a chronic state of stress or shutdown long after the trauma is over and danger has passed. So being able to understand that physiological imprinting is that trauma isn't just psychological, it's an embodied experience. So this means that healing requires not only working with the mind in cognitive work, but also doing somatic and energetic practices that are going to engage the whole person. This is why at Discover Divinity, I practice a platform that includes the body, heart, mind, spirit, and energy field, because being able to work intrinsically in all of these parts of who we are brings us the greatest foundation for healing. Now, another part of science that offers us so much hope is that there is a neuroplasticity component to our brains. This means that the change in the brain can actually heal as life goes on. Before They came up with the concept of neuroplasticity. They had taught us that our cells couldn't change in our brains, but this is such a beautiful, beautiful gift from the scientific community that they do have research and studies that show that the cells in the brain, as well as the body, can shift and heal. So positive experiences, therapy, mindful practices can all help rewire those neural pathways towards safety and balance. And the goal is to have early intervention so that we can prevent trauma from becoming so deeply embedded. But it's never too late to begin to heal. Our nervous system is capable of moving from dysregulation to regulation if we give it the right tools. So one of the most transformative frameworks that I have found is from Peter Levine. He is the founder of somatic experiencing. And along with this ACE study, when I studied and researched Peter Levine's work, it was such a validation for so many of the symptoms that I was having. It helped me not only to be able to acknowledge, but have that awareness so that I could then take the empowered action to do the things that I needed to in order to help my nervous system heal and then ignite that change on a physical level. His approach teaches us that trauma is not just what happened to us, it's what got stuck in our bodies when our natural survival responses were stopped or blocked or thwarted. So trauma activates the nervous system's fight, flight, or freeze responses. And when the threat is overwhelming and we can't complete these natural responses, we can't fight or flee, the energy will actually get trapped and it will lead to chronic tension and symptoms. And so when we're moving through trauma recovery, we go through 3 stages. So we have number 1, that's the freeze or shutdown. So that's when the body immobilizes to protect itself, often leading to symptoms like disassociation or numbness. Number 2 is the discharge. This is when the body begins to release stored energy through shaking or crying, deep breaths or movement. And then number 3 is integration. The nervous system during this time settles, the safety is restored, and the person regains presence and emotional regulation. So inner child work often helps us meet that frozen part or that scared part of ourselves that got stuck in the freeze state. And some of the symptoms that we may have with unresolved trauma is anxiety, panic attacks, chronic stress, emotional numbness, disassociation, hypervigilance, where we may also overwork to control our feelings, chronic physical pain, illnesses, difficulty trusting or feeling safe in relationships, trouble regulating emotions, or frequent mood swings. I also have an episode in previous episodes with the podcast that goes into PTSD, it goes into trauma, and so I'll make sure to link that episode in the show notes so that you can listen to not only some of the perspectives that we have with early childhood trauma, but trauma as a whole and how those different things can affect us, but also some of those modalities and things that you can use to heal. This inner child work is a very big one. And healing is about allowing that body and that nervous system to complete these interrupted survival responses with safety and with compassion. Peter Levine says healing trauma means completing the defensive responses that were thwarted. So inner work, this inner child work, is a loving invitation for that frozen part of the inner child to begin to move again through this love, this acknowledgement, this expression, and true presence. And so what I would love to impart as we're coming through this close of today's episode are 5 tools that you can start to use. And as I'm sharing this, I wanted to share a personal experience first of a tool that I used when I was going through some of this inner child work, and I had learned about a non-dominant handwriting exercise. And so what happens is you can use your non-dominant hand and begin to write from that child's perspective, and maybe use some of the words or some of those emotions that the child is feeling. And so you may use words, I feel ... because, and just allow yourself to start writing through that process. It may even be a younger child. For me at the time, I did use words. That was a very great release. But if you're working with a really young child, it may just be scribbling and being able to allow some of those sensations, those feelings to come up with the non-dominant hand. And then what happens is you take your dominant hand and you write back to that child, and you write to the child anything and everything that you want that child to know, feel, and understand. And that was such a beautiful, beautiful gift. One of the very first beautiful gifts that I ever gave my 20-month-old. And I saved that work because it's so precious to me. And it was that moment when I finally got to bring that part of myself back home and come into the integration of allowing that 20-month-old to come back into my heart and to feel safe and held. And it really is about walking into that full integration with these parts of yourself. And the tools that I'm giving you today are beautiful catalysts to be able to do that work on your own. But inner child work can be a really hard thing as well. So I always invite you to make sure that you reach out to a trusted provider, someone who is trained in modalities to support you in this work. And this is where I am truly passionate about what I do and being able to offer that safe space without re-traumatizing an individual by providing practical tools and resources. So always, make sure that you reach out. I'm here and available for one-on-one sessions. But hoping that tool number one, that non-dominant handwriting exercise, will be a tool that you can use on your own as you're starting to just tune in and notice some of those sensations in the body. And so that leads me to tool number two, and that is the body scan. That's breath awareness. That's where you can set aside 10 minutes to even lie down or sit comfortably and slowly bring awareness to different parts of the body from head to toe. And just noticing any areas of tension, breathing deeply into those places, and then allowing the breath to just calm, letting go of judgment, and just breathing into it, allowing the breath to start to bring the nervous system and that connection to your body back to a space of opening up that door for that inner child to feel safe. Now, I've got a tuning into the body meditation that I'll also include in the show notes that you can use to help support you in this process as you are opening up the door to inner child work. Some of the processes and modalities that I use can help you take that even further, but this tuning into the body meditation is a great foundational gateway as you are working on these things at home. Something else that you can do is moving through creative expression and play. So this is engaging in play. As adults, sometimes we forget that we can play as adults. And so draw, paint, maybe dance, sing. Tune into some of those things that you loved doing as a child and allow these parts of that inner child to express joy and emotions freely. And remember that play isn't just a waste of time or frivolous. This is actually healing work. Number 4 is one of my favorite things to do, and that's grounding in nature. So spend time outside, maybe walk barefoot in the grass, feel the earth, and just notice, with your 5 senses, maybe some colors, smells, or sounds. And nature is truly grounding. That Mother Earth connection can help get your body back into the present moment and nurture your soul. Number 5 is looking in the mirror and saying gently, I see you, I hear you, and I promise I will never leave you. I love you, and you are safe with me. Using affirmations are such a powerful way to soothe fear and to build safety. These are simple but profound ways to reconnect with your inner child and start the healing journey today. So, if you would like to go deeper, my intuitive sessions integrate energy healing, rapid eye technology, as well as a way to release trauma and stress at a nervous system level gently and effectively. Healing the inner child is not a quick fix. It's a sacred journey of courage, compassion, and presence. But it is also that gateway to reclaiming your sovereign soul, balancing that sacred union of those divine masculine and feminine energies from within, and accessing the deep, innate wisdom that has always lived within you. I love this quote by Rumi that says, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." So know that these wounds are invitations. It's this deeper light, healing, and transformation that is awaiting you around the corner. So if you feel called to deeper healing, I invite you to explore working with me through one-on-one sessions as I gently combine the intuitive aspects of the work that I do as well as science-based modalities to help us get to the root of trauma and stress and be able to release those and come back into that safety of the nervous system and heal that inner child and reclaim this part of you that deserves to live in joy, abundance, and happiness. And remember, healing is not about fixing what's broken, but it's remembering who you truly are, because you are whole, you are sacred, and you are infinitely worthy. So thank you so much for joining me on this sacred path today. I hope this episode has given you validation, it's giving you hope, and it's given you some practical tools that you can begin to use on your healing journey. So as we close, if you will take a moment now and breathe, connect with your body, and hold your inner child with kindness. Know that you're not alone. This is a profound work that we are doing to rise above that dark night of the soul and reclaim your innate wisdom and your sovereignty. And as always, keep shining your light, keep rising. Your sovereign soul is waiting to be fully known. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and keep moving toward that divine light from within. Thank you for listening to the Discover Divinity podcast. If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to check out discoveringdivinity.com. You will find resources to reclaim your sacred, sovereign spirituality. Here, you can join the Discover Divinity community, where we have free online community classes, as well as done-for-you courses and programs. Navigating the unique personal path to wholeness can feel overwhelming at times. If you would like further support or are ready to take your healing empowerment to the next level, I offer one-on-one intuitive sessions in a variety of different packages, where we will discover, release, create, reclaim. Discover your innate wisdom that lies within. Release the imbalances that prevent you from living your truth. Create harmony in body, heart, mind, spirit, energy, and relationships. Reclaim your sovereign soul. It is time to discover new possibilities. It is time to discover you.